We're lucky to have Jerry West, the Hall of Famer and Clippers consultant, won an NBA championship in 1972. Certainly crossed paths with Bill Russell quite a bit, and Jerry kind enough to join us on the program. Jerry, let's start with Bill the player. If people didn't see Bill Russell the player, how would you describe him?
Well, I think, Dan, obviously, he was the most unique player that I think that came into the league at that point in time. He was kind of a forerunner of what we see today, these active big guys who can move out in the court. He could play out in the court, but his activity level was probably what made him stand out more than anything, particularly on the defensive end. And I think that was the advent of people starting to understand the importance of the defensive play in this league and particularly what one man could do to disrupt other teams. It allowed you to do so many things to hide weak defensive players that sometimes people would take advantage of. And they were smart enough to use him the right way. They would funnel guys to him, but driving to the basket, he would alter shots and or block shots that seemingly took away 2 points and also ignited what they like to do best, is run up and down the court. But more than that, he's a man who probably changed the way the sport is looked at today. Everyone looking for a big, gifted guy. And over the years, as we've seen the changes in the game, particularly because of the three-point line, I think his unique style of play will be what someone is looking for now more than ever, in the sense that hopefully there will be a better offensive player than he was, but remarkable player, but more importantly, a remarkable man.
How aware were you of Bill when you went to the hoop?
Well, early in my career, Dan, because I'd never seen a player like this. I was probably an athlete before my time. Could go in there and jump over most people. You had to really be careful with him. And early in my career, he really bothered me a lot because I had the ability to get by people. And with him back there, you had to learn how to either make a pass, and which would help players if they were gifted enough to do it. And then more importantly, how to look for him before he got there. That was the most important thing. You almost had to identify him. And I was able to do that later in my career and had much more success playing against him because of being aware of where he was all the time.
Also, he's one of the first, and you would know better, it felt like he blocked shots and kept shots in play, whereas Wilt might have blocked them out of bounds. It felt like Bill Russell blocked him to then start a fast break.
Well, there's no question. And today you watch players, block shots, and everyone gets really excited about them blocking the shots into the stands and everything. It would be nice if they could just tip the ball to their own people. And my goodness, when you're in driving situations, Dan, it's the ideal time to run out on teams because teams are anticipating maybe an offensive rebound. They'll be leaning toward the offensive end if they're offensive players. And the defensive players, if a ball is tapped or deflected off the board or someone, that's when today's players really take advantage of open courts because they're so good in the open courts today.
Did you ever talk about you guys meeting in the finals? Did you ever get a chance to talk to Bill later in your careers about playing for championships?
Dan, he and I are probably a lot closer than anyone would ever thought. I'm happy to say that I was a friend of his. I knew a lot about him personally. We shared a lot of thoughts. Some of the things that he said about me will live forever. And I have something in my bathroom that I've had up there vividly displayed in my bathroom for years. And it was the night that they'd had a night for me here in Los Angeles. And he had said something about me that has resonated with me for years. And he talked about the respect of players in the league that they had for me, the respect they had for me. And he also said in there, maybe more than any man I've ever known. But his last thought was, he said, I just wanted you to be happy. And over the years, he was great friends with Jim Brown. They lived together, talking about how they could help make a difference in minority communities, be people who help keep in sight what their focus was. Uh, One of the things they used to do, and both Bill and Jim, I talked about with Jim too, they used to drive across the country together every summer. And Bill would laugh about it in the sense that he said, can you imagine two giant black guys driving out across the country in some little small town, and they pull up, and here are these two legendary sports figures, but more importantly, just how committed they were to help making a difference in the minority communities, and the awareness they brought to the athletes in the league, even at that point in time when it was not in vogue, Dan, at all.
He wanted you to be happy. What did he mean by that?
Well, Dan, it's pretty well known that I've had some awful dark days in my life, and even still today. And coming from him, I think the pain that me and other players that played for the Lakers at that point in time to get beat by them, I think 8 times in the finals, was really very traumatic. And at the height of my career, when I didn't take a back seat from anyone at those days, and to come up short all the time, and particularly to the Celtics, it was hurtful. It was even to this day, I think about it. Think about how people might view you as a champion. And even though we won once, and I played on a lot of great teams, a lot of success afterwards, it was not the same as the team that you really wanted to beat were the Celtics. And because they had such great excellence, he won 11 championships as a player coach. It's pretty remarkable that I don't think we'll ever see a winner like that in any sport again, because I'm not sure it's the leagues are established that way today. Players traded, free agency changed the destiny of a lot of teams. And also, when you lose a player of his caliber, if you can imagine if he would have been a free agent, what might have happened then. It would change the dynamics of a lot of teams.
We look at Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time, but Russell's the greatest winner. Why don't we recognize, if winning is the ultimate, why isn't Bill considered the GOAT?
Well, today we honor individual achievements. I watch today in sports, and here in Los Angeles and in Orange County, we have 2 incredible baseball players on the Angels teams that everyone doesn't understand why they can't win. Obviously, they're not good enough to win. Mike Trout and Ohtani. And I look at those players and I marvel what they're able to do and be the most valuable player on a team that wasn't a great team at all last year in Ohtani. And I say to myself, you would think that those awards would be given to teams on winning teams. They're not. They're recognized as for individual achievement. But again, as I say, today the sports have changed completely. It's about self-promotion. It's about also a lot about social media. And there's so many kids today who are really into that. And I think probably one of the things that's most shocking to me is when kids go to college today and they're on these social media pages, and they have thousands of followers in places that you never heard of. Basically, I mean, instead of the big cities where you expect most of the publicity to come from. So there's a different approach, I think, to sports today than maybe we've ever had before. And Bill's excellence, not only as a player, but as a human being, will far outlive some of these others, in my mind, I believe.
How was Red Auerbach during a game to you? You ever say anything to you?
No, I didn't talk to anyone, Dan. I really didn't. Everyone used to get, when he would light his victory cigar. I heard a lot of things said in our locker room, particularly one of our late coaches, about what he'd like to do with that cigar. And and obviously he never had a chance to do that because we were never able to beat them. I had great admiration for them, but there were 2 years that, and I'll say it to the day I die, that we should have won. We had the best team and we did not win. And that's what's even more galling when those things happen. But, you have to, I think you learn from losing. You have to learn to lose with class, but it still doesn't take the hurt away if you care more than the average person. And I always felt I did care more.
If you could replay one game in your career.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, boy. I think maybe the first time we'd ever played in the NBA finals and we get beat in the 7th game in Boston Garden in overtime. Game was tied and Frank Selvey, who was playing for us at that time, he and I were in the backcourt. He made a shot to put us in overtime, and he missed one that would have won it for us. And I always used to love moments like that. And they had double teamed me and Elgin Baylor. We were playing together, Lady Elgin Baylor, who also was an incredible friend of Bill's. And we were not able to get the ball. And, people will talk about Frank for missing that shot. I will never talk about him because he made the one that really mattered. And he was a very good shooter. He missed a shot that I'm sure a lot of us would like to have, but that's sports. That game, a lot of nights, even today, I go to bed and I said, oh my gosh, I wish I could have had that for the last shot. And again, I don't know if I would have made it or not, but it's something that I wish I'd had an opportunity to do.
The wins don't stay as long as the losses do, right?
No, absolutely not. Not with me. I have very high standards, Dan, in terms of what I felt as an athlete. I felt that if you could play, you played. We played under a lot of different times, a lot of different eras when the league was just changing. Frankly, Bill and I think Elgin Baylor and myself, we brought a different perspective from an athletic standpoint that the league didn't have then. There were a lot less great athletes like today's game. We see enormous athletes today, and you just see them getting better and better at all time, and particularly with a lot of the things that we see players do today. But it was a very prideful time for anyone who really cared, and those times were the most meaningful times in my life because winning meant everything to me. And even today, it still means probably more than most people would ever imagine.
In that series, you averaged 31. Elgin averaged 40. Elgin missed that window. Like, he's the first true athletic superstar in the NBA. And I only saw him at the very end when he had his knee injury. But just knowing what he did, how he did it at that time, it felt like Elgin's maybe the forgotten superstar in NBA history.
Well, I've said that a lot, Dan. I think he was so quiet, and he just played the way he played. And to watch him some nights, you say, "Oh my God, where did this guy learn how to, particularly shoot the ball off the board?" And he had amazing instincts to rebound the ball, and particularly on the offensive end. He was an even a better teammate, but he has been forgotten. There's no question about it. And I think
he averaged 38 and 18 one year, Jerry. Well, you should know this. 38 points, 18 rebounds.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, he was an athlete before his time, and his just due has never been there for him. And I think the problem that happened, he got hurt a couple of times later in his career, which really were at a time in his career when he was just still a great, great player. And at that point in time, obviously the doctor and medical care was not like it is today, and it did rob him. And for me, to watch someone who I loved to watch play when I was playing with him, some of the things he would do. And I think people say, well, how do you even concentrate on that? Well, for me, it was easy, just the ease that he would do it. And instincts are something that you wish all people had, and particularly great instincts, which he had. But he was a remarkable player himself. And as I mentioned, when we used to go to Boston, if Bill would have invited me to the house, and I really didn't even know him because I was so quiet. He and Elgin used to have dinner together. Will Chamberlain, he used to have dinner together. And they used to act like that these guys hated each other. And it was just completely the opposite. And I think it was about respect, about respecting Black athletes' ability not only to be players, but be treated as human beings. And that's exactly what he was about a player. And also his activism was incredible. And I applaud him for that. But we lost a giant of a man, not only in person, but in stature of what he accomplished in this league and outside of the league.
That laugh. There's no other laugh like his.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely. He was just a wonderful man. And I will miss my times. Every time we saw each other, we always ended up together some way, somehow. And our talks never varied. They were always the same. And his famous, I don't call it laugh, I call it cackle.
Yeah.
That will resonate in my mind forever.
Always great to talk to you, Jerry. Thank you again. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, Dan.
That's Jerry West, a Hall of Famer, Clippers consultant. He won the title in 1972. NBA Finals MVP in 1969 when they lost. I think, 14 years, 14 times an All-Star for Jerry West.